这样子有没有声音？然后可以帮我听一下吗？喂，hello， 测试一下，请问一下这样子可以听到我的声音吗？直播，有声音吗？
还没有直播
啊，还没有直播？为何？有对不起，我重开了一个了，应该是再重新看一下。有吗？看一下有没有声音。有吗？有，好 ，OK。Apologies for the delays. I found that my microphone does not work in the previous week, so maybe the sound quality was maybe not very good. So, well, technical issues. So, apologies again for the delay today. Last week we talked about the U.S. interests, how the U.S. view the US-Taiwan-China relations, and I think that it is a competition of the paradigm. So sea power versus land power. So as the U.S. national interest, the main target is to maintain the free and open navigation through the sea. Okay. However, for land power, it seeks occupation, the expansion of its territory. So it's different thinking. So the U.S.-China relations is going through different stages. The first one is containment. So the U.S. trying to make alliances, especially military alliances, to contain the expansion of the Soviet Union and the communists. And then the second part is the engagement policy, starting from the 1970s. And the U.S. cooperated with China to compete with the Soviet Union. And then something changed. Okay. 就是美中台关系，我们要从美中关系开始讲起。那是有3个阶段，就是 containment 围堵，就是围堵共产党。再接下来是交往是为了要跟中国合作，一起跟苏联竞争。然后在2010年左右呢，开始美中关系开始进入竞争。So starting from Henry Kissinger, he arranged the visit of the United States president to China, and then switched the diplomatic ties later. So the U.S. they have 3 main factors to push for the engagement policy with China. The first one is to compete with the Soviet Union, and the second one is theoretically, many people think that if we engage with the dictatorship, then they will liberalize someday. Okay. 就是当然第一个主要原因是为了要跟苏联竞争，第二个原因呢就是很多学者认为，只要你越跟独裁者来往，最后他们就会民主化，最后就会自由化。And the third factor comes after China become the real world factor. So especially after China entered the WTO. Okay, so everyone make business in China and then they make a lot of money. So there's more motivation for the U.S. or the entire world to engage with China. 就是到了2000年之后，中国才真正成为世界工厂，然后成为大家都想要做发大财的对象，所以你就越会去跟中国交往，就越不会想要跟中国竞争。So after we also mentioned that after the Tiananmen Square protests and the massacre, so the whole world starting to sanction China, starting to stop engagement policy temporarily. Okay, and then it is Taiwan and Hong Kong's businessmen that save China's economy. Okay, so and also there's a U-turn of Democrats, especially President Clinton, the U-turn, and starting to engage with China. 就是在天安门事件之后呢，全世界都在制裁中国，但是就是台湾的商人跟香港的商人救了中国经济，然后克林顿在许多的大公司的游说之下呢，就是采取了法夹湾，开始对中国有非常好的这个贸易的政策。OK。So in the year 2000s, then the U.S. shifted their focus to combat with the terrorists. Okay, especially after the 9/11 accident. So there's a completely shift of their strategic focus. So there's more motivation for the U.S. to cooperate with China. And then there comes the U.S. financial crisis and also the Olympic Games of Beijing. So there's for China, they're starting to think that the West has a downfall and then China is rising. 就是在2000年，尤其是2008年前后，美国发生金融危机，然后呢，去跟中国就讨救兵，请中国来救美国股市。然后呢，北京奥运就是让中国的民族主义达到一个顶点。And then something went wrong. So the U.S. starting to feel that something just, just some problems of engagement with China. So, so the factors that push for the engagement policy just vanished. Okay, so the first one, there's no need to compete with Soviet Union anymore. There's no Soviet Union. Okay, and then we see that the hope for the democratization just failed. So China did not democratize, and then even become more and more authoritarian, like an authoritarian regime, or back to a totalitarian regime. So China just tightened control of everything. Okay, so the theory of liberalization or democratization just failed in China. 就是大家原本认为说中国就慢慢走向民主化跟自由化，但是没想到更正好相反，尤其是习近平。Especially when after Xi Jinping took power in 2012, so everything just reversed. Okay, so he started to concentrate the power instead of democratize. Okay, and then for the money part, so after the year 2010, or during that year, the U.S. starting to find out that, the disadvantage of making business with China is larger than the benefits. Okay, for example, there's many, China steals a lot of technology, steals a lot of, there's a lot of cases of espionage, 间谍案件 from China. And then there's a lot of unpredictable policies. For example, Xi Jinping just, sometimes he will just shut down the entire city, according to some weird reasons. For example, for the environmental protection reasons, he can shut down all the cities for a week. And can you imagine that if you are running a factory, then you have to stop for a week? How much loss will you have? Okay, so there's a lot of unpredictable policies for the businessmen. So it's not stable to do business in the dictatorship. 就是在独裁国家要做生意非常的辛苦，因为有很多这个意外事件，像是习近平他有时候就会把整个城市都关掉，就是说因为污染太严重，所以我们整个城市都停工，那你就会损失很多这样子。当然还有中国一直不断在偷那个智慧财产权。So the U.S. businessmen starting to find out that the cost of doing business in China is, becoming larger and larger. So they are less willing to lobby for the China policy. Okay, that is the key. So before 2014 or 2015, a lot of American companies, they are willing to lobby for China. But after that, less and less companies willing to do so. 就是美国的企业在2015年以前，就是很喜欢大力去游说政府说，你不要对中国太不好，或者你不要推出什么关税，你要开放对中国开放。可是因为在中国做生意的成本越来越高，所以他们就越来越不愿意去帮中国政府做lobby、做游说。Okay, so if you read the Wei Lin's book, Superpower Showdown, you will see that more and more American companies starting to complain that doing business in China is becoming more and more difficult. Okay, so they are not willing to lobby for China anymore. So, this book, Superpower Showdown. I like this book a lot because there are a lot of stories starting from their own families, doing business in a traditional way in Midwest. So that also tell you how Donald Trump is rising. So Donald Trump is, he expressed that, well, China just steal our jobs. That is basically, it's okay because under a globalization era, 就是在全球化底下，就是工作本来就是会往那个人力成本比较低的地方移动，所以很多传统制造业他们就会失去工作。 So Mr. Trump just saying that China steals the American jobs, and because a lot of factories just moved to China because of the cheaper labors there. Okay, so he wants to speak up for these labors, and especially in what called as the the Midwest areas that is traditionally more manufacturers there， 就是在传统制造业比较多的地方，就是会比较支持川普。So this book, this is one translation from the English version. So the English version title is here. So the Mandarin version is here. That's sentence. So the basically argument is that we mentioned this. Well, not here. So basically, the argument is that the U.S. and China competition is between democratic values versus the dictatorship, and also it's the American-style capitalism versus Chinese model of the national corporatism capitalism. Okay, so 美式自由式的资本主义，意思就是说就是市场机制，但是中国式的统合主义式的资本主义，意思就是说中国就是政府会介入市场 ，OK， 就是比如说补贴，要大力的补贴，或者是去合并，然后让一些公司变得非常大，然后它就可以有成本的优势去跟别人竞争，那个叫做中国式的统合式的资本主义。Okay, so the American style of free market capitalism, that is, they emphasize the importance of fair competition in the market, fair competition. However, Chinese model of capitalism is the so-called state-controlled or state corporatism capitalism. That is, the country, the government will decide who can have the market, who can have advantage in the market. So they controlled the market. So the competition is not free and fair. Okay. So it's a value, the battle of values. Not only the democratic versus the dictatorship values, but also on economy, there's the U.S.-style capitalism, free market capitalism versus the state-controlled capitalism. Okay. So it's a just standard. So we see, we mentioned that in the Hu Jintao era, before Hu Jintao, everyone in the Politburo is equal. However, under Xi Jinping, it's only him alone. Okay. So the U.S. now is they are having a so-called Indo-Pacific strategy. That is you can read that. For the reports. So basically, it says that we should use a whole of government approach to cooperate with our alliances to deal with China. They do not specify China, but well, everyone knows that. Okay, so Indo-Pacific strategy. We will have 1 week for this Indo-Pacific strategy. 就是美国的印太政策基本上就是说我们要用全政府的途径，就是说每一个政府单位都要一起。就是纳入在这个当中，然后跟盟友一起去，等于就是重新要围堵中国。Okay. So it's a current views of China. The state Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says that what is changed is this: the decision by the government in Beijing that status quo was no longer accepted. They want to speed up the process that they will pursue reunification. I think the word is not correct here, reunification, because, in my view, Taiwan has never been ruled by PRC. Okay, so there's no re here. Re means that we are together before, and we reunify again, right? But there's no reunification here. Okay, so that's my argument. And also, when we talk about unification these days, that is more like annexation instead of unification. Okay. Annexation is 并退. Okay, because we no longer pursue for unified the mainland， 我们没有要反攻大陆了嘛，对不对？所以如果当我们谈论统一的时候，唯一的可能就是并吞，就是他们中国要来并吞。Okay, so this term is misleading, in my view. So you can read the newest, the latest report by the U.S. intelligence community， 就是国家情报总监啊，美国政府里面有一个国家情报总监。Because there's different institutions of intelligence, like CIA, like National Intelligence Bureau or something, or there's some institutions in the military. So this institution is the integration of all of these institutes. So they have an annual report, and the latest one just came out recently. You can read that, and you will see that the U.S. now treats China as the main threat for the international order, and that threat is larger than Russia. Okay. 就是在美国有很多情报单位，每个国家都是有很多情报单位，比如说这个军事部门有军事的情报单位，然后在这个有CIA 嘛，然后类似像这些，然后有一个统整的单位就是这个国家情报总监，然后他是直接隶属于白宫。那他们最近就出了一个就是说他们去评估说现在美国面对的最主要的威胁是什么，里面就说中国就是最大的威胁 ，OK， 就是比俄罗斯的威胁还要更大 ，OK。And this is the latest the State of Union address. The State of Union address is the annual report of the President to the Congress. Okay, they have this State of Union address written in their Constitution. Okay. By the way, we also, during our elections, many people argue that our president should go to Congress, and this is part of it. Okay. However, the Congress cannot question the president, okay? Because under the presidentialism, the president and the Congress is two different parallel institutions, okay? So even when the Constitution regulates that the president has to report or give a speech annually. However, the Congress people cannot question him, okay? 就是美国的这个国情咨文啊 ，State of the Union Address， 就是写在宪法里面说，每年都要去那边报告，但是国会议员不可以质询他 ，OK？ 因为行政部门跟立法部门是平行的 ，OK？ some of our legislators from KMT in our legislature says that the Congress is larger or superior than the president. It is not correct. OK， 就是有国民党议员说，质询是上对下的关系，他认为行政部门是他认为立法部门是上，然后行政部门是下，这是错误的，因为在现在是三权分立，分立的话就是 checks and balance， 你不是比他高 ，OK， 所以这是错误的认知。Okay, so in a recent State of Union address, President Biden says that we are standing up against China's unfair economic practices. See, this is a value. The competition between the capitalism versus China's state-controlled capitalism. Unfair economic practice and standing up for peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Okay, this is the first time after the U.S. switched the diplomatic ties to PRC, this is the first time that in the State of the Union address that the president mentions the peace and stability across Taiwan Strait. The first time, okay, the very first time. Okay. So it's not only the U.S. interest to care about Taiwan Strait, but also the whole world, because according to many reports, many research, if there's a blockade or there's a armed conflict in the Taiwan Strait, then there will be very big economic losses for all over the world. Okay， 就是如果中国使用武力，或者是就是在台湾战争的话，就是对全世界来说都是非常重大的损失。The economic loss are not from the chip industry only. Okay, not only from the chips industry, but also from the geopolitical the locations of the Taiwan Strait. Because the Taiwan Strait is one of the main roads for the maritime cargoes. 就是台湾海峡是一个非常重要的航道，所以我们台湾的重要性并不只有在晶片，并不只有在高科技，还有我们的很多其他的产业，以及那个航道本身就是非常重要的。Okay, so there's a term called silicon shield， 就是有些人说台湾的重要性是因为我们有这个半导体产业，但是远远不止如此。Okay. The silicon shield, the argument is that because we Taiwan produce a lot of the advanced chips for all the world, so the world will, care about Taiwan and protect Taiwan. Maybe, that is the main argument of the silicon shield. However, that argument is, I don't buy the argument because way before we have the advanced chips, the U.S. cares about Taiwan. For example, in 1996, the Taiwan Strait crisis that time, because we are going to have the first presidential election in 1996, and China just fired a lot of missiles that time, right? That time you are not born yet, okay? So that time, the U.S. sent the aircraft carriers to protect Taiwan. That's way before we have TSMC, we have the advanced chip industry. OK， 就在1996年的时候，有台海危机，中国发射很多的飞弹，想要阻止我们总统选举。那个时候，美国就派出第7舰队来了。那个时候，我们并没有所谓的 Silicon Shield， 我们并没有所谓的这个细盾，我们的这个半导体产业还没有很发达。所以说，我们台湾的重要性并不只有在于我们半导体。So, we introduced, so far, very quickly, we go through last week's main topics. But we have to remind you that when we talk about the U.S. national interests, we have to understand there are a lot of different views in the U.S. A lot of, okay? Just like, everyone has his own view, right? So when we talk about the U.S. interests, well, there are always multiple approaches on China, okay? So I think this is a very good map, it's a very good framework proposed by a Japanese scholar named Fumiko Sasaki, okay? She has a piece on Taiwan Insight. By the way, Taiwan Insight is an online-based IR journal published by London the SOS, the University of London Taiwan Study Center. So this is a very good resource for you to read. Okay, and it's all free. Okay. So in this piece, she proposed this map for us to understand the U.S. interest. So for the x-axis, x-axis. On the right side is anti-China. Okay. On the left side is pro-China. So that is anti-China and pro-China. Okay. And the y-axis, y-axis is how you approach China. On the top side is ideological approach. On the bottom side is a calculative approach. That is, you will calculate the costs and benefits of the policies on China. But on the top side, ideological means that you are pro-China or anti-China by nature or by your belief. Okay, so this is different. Okay, by belief or maybe material or some other factors here. Okay, so we have a 2x2 map here. So the x-axis is anti-China or pro-China. And the y-axis is ideological or calculative or material. We can think of this. Okay， 就是这个学者日本学者，他就提出这个，我们来了解怎么看中国。OK， 那这个 x 轴就是反中跟亲中。 右边是亲中，左边是反中，右边是反中，左边是亲中。上面是Y 轴的话，就是你怎么看你看中国的方式。OK， 那上面是意识形态式的，就是你是信仰式的，你是真的相信那个东西的价值式的。那下面就是计算式，就是比较物质性的物质考量就比较这个成本效益分析这样子。Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories. Okay, on this side, the top the top right, ideologists. Okay, so these people are purely support for democracy and purely anti-dictatorship. Okay, so they are anti-China because they're anti-dictatorship. They believe that, well, we should support for human rights, we should support for democracy, and we should we should be, compete with China. So these people include Marco Rubio, the Senate from Texas, Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State, Matt Pottinger, former National Security Advisor, Vice Advisor in White House. Bob Menendez is a Senate or a House person, the Congress person, okay? So, 就是最右边最上面的就是纯粹的价值性的反中，就是对中国的鹰派啦，你可以这样想。包括参议员 Marco Rubio， 前国务卿 Mike Pompeo。然后呢，这个是 Matt Pottinger， 他的中文名叫国民，他之前是白宫副国安顾问。Bob Menendez， 他是那个应该是参议员还是众议员忘记，那时候是个国会议员。Okay，and then we have the second category is protectionists. So these people are more anti-China but more economic perspective. Okay, protectionist is a term used on economy laws. So these people are concerned on the economic side, but they also for example, China's control of the market. 就是这些人 protectionist 这个字本身就是从经济学的来的嘛，那他们是比较从经济的角度出发，认为中国就是扭曲了整个市场，所以他们是比较从市场，而不是从这个所谓民主政治的这种角度，或者民主的人权的角度，他们其实不太在乎人权啊，他们是在乎市场必须要是完全自由的。那中国既然是一个破坏市场，所以我们就必须要去反中。So these people include Gerard Brents, how to say this? How to pronounce this? Anyone knows that? Bernstein. Robert Lighthizer, Peter Navarro, the former officials in the Trump administration. Okay, and then we have a lot of people here in the middle. It's called liberal realists. Okay, so the term here is a little bit misleading, but you can see a lot of so-called establishment. Establishment in Mandarin is 建制派. Okay, establishment 建制派. So that includes a lot of diplomats or scholars in the think tanks. They believe that, well, there are a lot of international institutions that will work. Okay, so everyone should follow that institution, and then they believe that these institutions can have at least some working on the dictatorship. 就是这些人是认为这个国际组织、国际建制、外交规则是可以适用，他们认为应该用这些东西来去跟中国做对话。So we'll see they always oppose some China policies. 那他们认为不要去刺激中国。OK， 如果你刺激中国的话呢，就是可能会引起更多的战争。OK， 就是很多的智库学者都是这样。That includes the main authors of our main book, 步步为营那本书的作者 Bonnie Glasser, Richard Bush, and for example, John Kerry, Susan Bolton. These people did not have a main post even under Biden administration. So every time when there is a party turnover, you can see who controls or who enters the government. Okay. And these people, or the people who are not so anti-China, they did not even under the Biden administration, they did not hold the main positions. Okay. However, they are still very influential because they a number of people, many people there, and they control for the think tanks and the bureaucrats. 就是在官僚机构里面，其实很多人都是比较相信制度的作用，然后比较认为说，这个我们还是可以跟中国多交往、多谈判的哦。然后这些人通常就认为说，我们不要去刺激中国啊，哦，那就是包含我们那个《步步为营》那本书的作者，其实都算是属于这一派的哦，就是他们在中间也没有很反中，也不算是亲中啊，他们就是认为说，我们就是要跟中国好好的谈。就是他们是反对说太过激烈的政策去对付中国，就是一群人在这里。And we have the bottom right here, strategic realists. They are not, they do not emphasize the so-called democracy or the capitalism, but they are more like a realist. In a realist perspective, the U.S. See China as a rising big country, a rising great power, so they have to compete. They have to try to maintain advantage of the U.S. 就这群人，他们其实比较是从大国竞争的角度去看中国。OK， 就是说他们觉得说中国是在挑战现有的世界，然后中国现在可能在破坏很多现有的规则。但他们不见得是会从所谓民主自由，或者是从经济，或者是那种自由市场经济的角度出发。These people are the main characters right now in the Biden administration. For example, Kurt Campbell. He previously served as the main people in charge of the whole Indo-Pacific strategy in the White House. 就是 Kurt Campbell 看对，他中名字忘记 Kurt Campbell， 他就是之前负责整个印太事务的，现在应该是副国务卿。Laura Rosenberg, she is now the chair of AIT, the chair of American Institute of Taiwan. She previously did a lot of research on China's informational warfare. 就是她的研究都是在于中国怎么样利用资讯战去渗透。Tom Cotton is a senator, okay, very Taiwan-friendly senator. So this part, ideologists, protectionists, and the strategic realists, they are more anti-China, but based on different reasons. Okay. 这些人啊 ，ideologists, protectionists， 还有这个 strategic realists， 他们反中，但是是基于不同的理由。OK， 不同的理由。中间这群人不太反中，就是他们是认为说应该要就是就是用这个大国这个什么就是外交的规则啊这些去跟中国交往。And the left margin side is very easy to understand. They are pro-China. Because they want to make money with China. Very easy to understand, right? So a lot of people here are just business tycoon. 就是商人想要跟中国做生意的 ，OK 就会在这边。OK. So these are, we see that there are multiple views on China, and they propose different approaches on China. Okay. So after the general election of the U.S. this year, you can see who enters the government, and you can examine these people's past research or past argument about China, and you can identify the position of the new officials. 就是在美国大选之后，你就可以去看谁进入政府，掌握了重要的职位。那这些人以前的这个立场是什么？你就可以知道，你就可以大概知道说，那接下来政府，美国政府对中国的态度会是怎么样。So these are the most important institutions that is related to US-Taiwan and China relations. So for the executives, there are White House and the government. So the White House, there's a national security committee. Under the White House. So there are a lot of positions for China, for Indo-Pacific, and for Taiwan. And so you can see who controls these positions under the White House. State Department is, you can imagine this as the foreign ministry. 就是它State Department 相当于 美国的外交部。OK， State Department， the translation is 国务院 ，OK， 国务院。The Pentagon is the defense ministry of the U.S. Pentagon， 就是美国的国防部，又称 Pentagon， 就是它那个国防部那个本部大厦就是一个五角大厦 ，OK， 所以我们称它为 Pentagon 这样子。那它就是国防部，你可以简称为 DOD，Defense of Department of Defense DOD。USTR is a U.S. Trade Representative， 贸易代表。Department of Commerce. So you can see that each department will have different views on China. Okay, different views because they are in charge of different affairs, right? So for example, for the Department of Commerce, sometimes you don't want to have a very quick decouple with China because there are still a lot of trade with China, right? Okay. However, they also are doing accept a lot of complaints from the U.S. companies that China is, controlling and for making a lot of unfair competition. So the Department of Commerce have to come up with some policies against that. 就是像是商务部，他们一方面不希望太快跟中国脱钩，因为毕竟这个跟中国还有很多来往。可是你又要去应对说，你的技术一直被偷走啊什么，你可能要提出一些制裁，尤其是在商务。那贸易代表跟国防部、跟国务院、跟白宫这几个单位之间，他们的想法一定不会一样，不会一样。So and also we have the Congress, okay, the Congress. Especially we should following through the important committees, especially the foreign committees. Okay, so the foreign committees they will discuss about important acts or bills or resolutions in these committees. In the U.S. political system, especially in the Congress, it's called, well, I don't know in English, but it's 委员会中心. So the most important institution is committees. Okay, so I don't know the term in English, but 委员会中心 means that if the committee makes a decision, then it's highly likely that it will pass. Okay, 就是只要在委员会里面通过的法案，在整个院会几乎就是一定会过。Okay, and for the China and Taiwan policies in the Congress, it's now bipartisan. Both parties highly making consensus on China and Taiwan policies, and that is maybe the only consensus of both parties. 就是现在美国的两大党对于台湾跟中国的政策都是高度的共识，而且大概是唯一具有共识的地方，就是中国跟台湾的政策。Okay, so the bipartisan issues. Okay, let me finish this. So we also have think tanks. There are hundreds of think tanks in the Washington D.C. area, so hundreds of them. So think tanks and also academia. I think these are a little bit different. So academia is more like to produce academic journals. So it's more like a theory oriented. But the think tanks, you will see they are producing a lot of policy papers, a little bit different. Maybe we can talk about this later. But think tanks and academia, but they also have the influential on the foreign policies. The media and the business. So a lot of different actors here. They all have different views. Okay, so we should notice that. But let's have a maybe 5-minute break. Thank you. 嘿，
FinTech 是翻译智库，
对，智库，对。
他们的差别是挂号内容。
哦，对，没有，就是他们比较会去制造出的是政策报告，可是学术界的话，就是会比较有很多比较理论的东西，对，大概是这样。
他们就是会影响美国外交政策。
对，这个应该是在院会，就是在国会，因为国务院是政府单位，那政府单位没有办法影响国会。
OK，
对，
谢谢。
对，最主要就是其实是因为校园都有去建设，会有去设，去专门讲，就是对动物园，因为原本就是他们就是我原本就是要被被动物园，可是后来就是因为一些不管是水动物的问题，就是运动不良的话是之间是各院的关系其实就蛮少，就事实大家都知道有什么6月或者是1块。这种风控对，后来比如员工怎么办？而且我回下去就我要，因为我就是被提升了，他们现在有。
喂，测试，这样听得到声音吗？测试，麦克风测试。喂，麦克风测试，麦克风测试，麦克风测试，麦克风测试。 This is a question for the day. This is a question for the day.你等一下再帮我听一下，再帮我听一下我的声音。So let me quickly go through this again. So there are different institutions, formal institutions in the U.S. Political system. So for the executives, there's White House under the president, and then State Department under the federal government. So White House and the government are not always on the same page. But the White House, the National Security Committee, is main advisor, the chief advisor to the president. And then the government is, they are making concrete or the more formal policies for the president. So 白宫跟政府单位他们的这个想法会不一样，但是白宫那边的国安会就是专门去制定政策，但是实际上的执行跟政策的内容必须要由政府单位来做哈。但是政府单位里面又有很多不同的单位，包括国务院，国务院就是他们的外交部了，国务院，然后 Pentagon 就是国防部哈，这个是贸易代表，然后商务部等等这些。那行政权跟国会立法权是完全不相干，就是谁都不能指挥谁了。那在国会里面就是有最重要，他们是委员会中心主义，所以 committee 做的决定通常都会通过院会，就是整个国会啊，院会。然后他们有2个国会 ，OK。So the executive Congress are just paralleled institution. They cannot control or even lead or guide another institution. Okay, And then we have think tanks. This is 智库, okay, 智库. In the Washington D.C. area, there are more than 100, maybe two or 300 think tanks there, and we have academia. There are some people are overlapping. So some academia professors will go to think tanks, but most of the think tanks researchers do not hold a PhD there. 就是大多数的智库的研究员并不需要一定要有博士学位哦，对他们来说，其实那个博士学位反而有点多余哈。他们的博士学位的人通常就是要进学界，进学界，所以他们产出的报告的内容的方向会不太一样。And then we have media and business. Okay, so this is the whole U.S. I mean, the U.S. is very big, and a lot of different kind of people there, and everyone has different views on China, on foreign policies, but maybe China policy and Taiwan policy are maybe the most, the only policies that they have bipartisan support. Bipartisan 的拼法是 BI, bipartisan 就是他们是跨党派的哈，对，现在对中国跟台湾都非常高度的支持。Some similar terms here. We have This is a misspelling. Asian. This is Asianism. 就是people who know Asia. Okay, so this is a misspelling. Asianism. China hands or sinologist. People who understand China. Okay, or panda hugger. 就是熊猫派，拥抱熊猫派。So these people are just they are highly pro-China. So you can call them panda hugger. Or dragon slayers. 就是屠龙派，哦，就是要去杀龙的，屠龙的。Dragon is China, okay. So some similar terms here. So let's conclude. Well, we are going a little bit slower than scheduled, but I think it's okay because there are different. There are some surprises of the plans. So, for example, we did not get the funding to visit the Exchange Foundation. So maybe we will make some of the adjustments there. I will announce later. But, well, so I think going through is okay right now at this moment. So in conclusion, the main U.S. national interest is to maintain the stability and prosperity in the region, especially for the Taiwan Strait. Okay, so this is in their domestic laws, regulated in the Taiwan Relations Act. So Taiwan Relations Act is a domestic law in the U.S. 就是一个国内法，在台湾关系法里面 ，stability and prosperity, and it's also for the whole region. It's also in their Indo-Pacific strategy. Okay, and the U.S. cares a lot about the status quo. They oppose any unilaterally change of the status quo. That is the U.S. grand strategy or the main principle for the whole region, especially for the US-China and Taiwan relations. That will never change. Okay, it will never change. And note that the US One China policy is highly flexible. So every time they will say that our policy hasn't changed, and well, it did change. For example, the President Biden says 4 times that the US has a commitment of defense on Taiwan. That is a change, but officially they will say, "Oh, we haven't changed anything." Okay, 就是在美国的一中政策底下，他们常常会做很多变化跟很多弹性的解释，但是每一次做完之后，就会出来跟大家讲说啊，我们什么都没变，一中政策都没变。Okay, so there's a magical words there, magical term. The U.S. One China policy hasn't changed. They always say this, always. But you can see this highly flexible. This is evolving, a lot of dynamics there, okay, for the U.S. One China policy. You can understand the One China policy as U.S. policy toward Taiwan, toward China, toward the whole, the Taiwan Strait, okay, under this term. So the main point is that you maintain the status quo and also free and open navigation, okay. You must know this. The U.S. mindset is this. If it isn't broken, don't fix it. Okay? I heard this
many times, in many occasions, when I have meetings with them or the academic conference or with the think tanks. Many people, Americans, say this. So I believe that this is a very important belief for the Americans. OK， 就是美国人常常讲这句话，一直不断讲，在各种场合都讲。OK，so they want flexibility. OK，something that is working. For example, the One China policy is working, so there's no need to change. OK, no need to change. So for Taiwan, we just do not expect that the U.S. can maybe recognize Taiwan as a formal independent country. That's not possible at this moment because their mindset is that if it isn't broken, don't fix it. Right now, the U.S. maintains the unofficial ties with Taiwan. It's working well, right? For them, I mean, for the U.S., it's working well. So don't fix it, don't change it. OK， 就是举例来说，我们现在很难去期待美国承认台湾或者跟台湾建交。为什么？因为对美国人来说，现在这套体制对他们来说运作的好好的没有必要改变嘛。啊，你如果改变，中国可能生气啊，可能会引起什么战争什么，不想要负这个风险。对美国人来说，你承认台湾对他来说有什么好处吗？没有，因为现在这套体制对他来说运作超好的，对不对？他可以跟台湾维持很好的关系啊，对不对？然后我们好像也不会怎么样啊，我们台湾人也都要维持现状嘛，对不对？所以大家都就是勉强啊，当然这是个勉强的现状，但是都运作的好好的。So this is a very important mindset for the U.S. So they want to, I mean, every time when they make any change, they will emphasize they are not change anything. Okay, very interesting. Okay, so the One China policy. So every time we heard that. Okay, according to the One China policy, the 3 communiques and also the 6 assurance and blah 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 in the Taiwan Relations Act, every time, I mean the White House or the State Department will emphasize this. OK， 就你每一次都会听到说美国人会跑出来跟你讲说，我们的一中原则、一中政策没有变，根据台湾关系法3个公报，还有这个6项保证，我们的这个政策都没有变，这样子。OK。So their strategies are indeed evolving, but I mean the whole principles are always there. So the Biden administration right now emphasizes that they are competing with China under different approaches, especially investment, infrastructure, and alliances. Okay, and they especially focus on the high technologies. Okay, these are, I mean, if there's another Trump administration next year, then maybe he will not emphasize alliances part. This is the most different part from between Biden and Trump. But other parts, I think, will remain the same. Okay. Oh, by the way, for the QA session, still not many people submit for that. So remember to submit for the weekly question. Okay. And the weekly question should, will be not Googleable. I mean, if you Google and you can find it, it's not a question, okay? So it's a question that is it includes some puzzles you don't know or it's worth discuss about, okay? 就是那个问题要是值得讨论的，然后不是一个单纯的事实。如果只是一个单纯事实，就不是一个问题 ，okay? That principle also applies to when you attend any talks or speech. Okay, do not ask any fact to the speaker. Okay, ask something that is worth discussing about, or it's a puzzle we don't know. 就是如果你去参加任何的演讲或什么，不要去问事实性的问题。OK， 不要问事实性的，那事实性你 Google 就可以了。好，不要去问这种问题，你要问那个可以真的是一个疑惑，你的疑惑或者是不知道怎么，或者有很多开放式答案的那种。OK, so will the U.S. see Taiwan as a competitor in terms of economy and thus cut aid to Taiwan? Yes, it will. For example, that is a mindset of Donald Trump, and Trump has already said this. Okay, last year he already said that. Taiwanese people are very smart and taking away a lot of jobs from the U.S. And that is his mindset all the time. So in the late 1980s, Donald Trump says that the Japanese steals the jobs from the U.S. And then in the late 1990s or early 2000, he's starting to say that it's China steals American job. And then Donald Trump says it's Taiwan steals the job from the US. So it's always, I mean, Donald Trump's always like this. So yeah, Taiwan and the US has a relationship or cooperation, but also competition. OK， 就是川普他在1980年代的时候就说日本偷走美国的工作，1990年代开始就说是中国偷走美国的工作，现在又说是台湾偷走美国的工作，他一直都是这样的。那这个也不用太担心啦，因为他就是一个商人，所以我们就是要跟他做，你可以给他很多的好处。OK, for example, when he was the president, I mean, can we say our? I mean, yeah, Terry Guo, 郭台铭, made a promise to invest a lot of money in Wisconsin state of Wisconsin. Well, it turns out that Guo Taiming failed to deliver, but at that time, Donald Trump thinks that it's very good because he can attract a lot of investment there. So what Trump wants is to attract more investment. Well, you steal my job, so you have to give me something back, investment, and want some back, the job back. It's the mindset of Trump. 就是川普为什么说我们偷了他的工作？那我们要怎么办？那就是还给他一些嘛，或者就多投资一些啊。哦，比如说那个时候郭台铭就是承诺就是要去投资，结果后来郭台铭食言了嘛，那是另外一回事。但是 anyway 就是说你就是给他很多，他就是要钱，他是要很多的投资，他要很多的工作，你就做出来给他看。那我们的台积电什么是做得到的啊？对不对？就是投资嘛，哦。So it is possible, and thus cut aids. But this connection, I'm not worried about that because Taiwan is not. I mean, Taiwan is very important in terms of geopolitical factors and other. I mean, to defend against China and other factors. So maybe we should not worry too much about that. Also, we see that the government here, the head of government may change from Biden to Trump, may change or may not. I mean, but the Congress is here. So there's a consensus in the Congress that they will not allow any big change on the Taiwan policies. Because right now there's a consensus on Taiwan. So I'm not too worried about if there's another Trump administration. Will US-China cooperate to combat with Russia again? My answer is no, because according to all of the documents of the US government, they now see China as the main threat, as the main challenger of the international order. Okay, not Russia, it is China. So right now, the US see China as the main challenger of the global order, okay, right now. And also, we will see, well, in the next slides here, I think China. So this is a speech given by Secretary of State Blinken last year. China is the only country with both the intent to reshape the international order and increases in the economic, diplomatic, military, and technological power to do it. 就是中国是唯一具有意图跟能力去改变国际社会的一个国家。Okay, it's the current right now the U.S. view on China is that China is the only country with the intent and with the capability to change the international order. Okay, so there's no need to, I mean, cooperate with China because they already identify China as the main challenger, not Russia, it's China right now. Okay, so this is right now the US view. Why China keeps accusing others not following the one China principle? Well, it's easy because you will shout for or pray for or doing anything to, I mean, hope for something you don't have. Okay, so the main principle, I mean, the main element of one China principle is Taiwan belongs to China. Taiwan is part of China, right? Because Taiwan is not part of China, so China has to do and to repeatedly say this. 就是你永远都会去祈求，或者去祷告，或者去喊说那些不属于你的东西，就是因为不属于你，非常想要它，所以你就一直喊，一直去想要讲。Okay, just like China. So because Taiwan is not part of China, but they want, so they repeatedly say this, and they want everyone to recognize this. Okay, so they want every government, every companies, every people, every group of people, civil society to to recognize this principle, to admit that Taiwan is part of China. Okay, so they want to do this, but this includes China's low warfare 法律战, because they want to set up a lot of recognition by other governments that can maybe eventually become an international law. 就是在国际法当中呢，就是国家的民事承认会是一个非常重要的国际法来源，所以它会必须要一直不断的叫别的政府来讲。In short, China wants Taiwan part of it, but they are forcing others to recognize it. Well, we have another big question here. So, are U.S. and China destined for war? That's a very big one. So maybe we will spend another week on this topic. Okay, how to avoid the war or different kinds of views. Okay, so if you have time, maybe you can skim on this book. 注定一战，中美能否避免修昔底德陷阱 ？Well, I don't know how to pronounce this. Thucydides trap. Am I correct? So it's a Greek philosopher said that, I mean, when he observed the ancient times, so the two great powers are destined for war. So Graham Allison has some analysis on that. We will talk about this later. So any questions before we go to the presentation? 就是那个okay, so for many of you, some people will think that the readings are maybe a little bit too much for you, but compared with the U.S., I mean the reading is not, it's okay, I think. It's just a beginning. So you just try to read, okay? Just try to read. And also for the group presentation, try to use English to think. Okay, it's okay to have a lot of mistakes. Even me, you can hear that I have a lot of grammar mistakes when I speak, but it's okay because the most important thing is to practice using English to practice to think and to present. OK， 就是我觉得最重要的事情呢，就是要用英文去思考，就是不要去翻译。你如果一开始你去翻译它的话，那你就是失去，你就没有练习到了。OK， 不要翻译，你要试着用英文直接讲，直接思考。就算有很多文法的错误也没有关系，好吗？就算是我也有很多文法错误啊，你一听都知道，对不对？就是太多了，什么第三人称时态的啦，好，然后那个字想不起来的啦，哦，那个发音错的啦，我觉得那都没有关系。OK， 所以就是你们要用英文去思考，这才是最重要的练习。OK， 用英文去思考，然后不要去翻译它。千万不要翻译 ，OK， 就你不要先讲一句话说，我就想要讲这个，然后你先用中文想好，然后再去翻译，那样就是没有练习到 ，OK， 所以希望大家在这个 group presentation 的时候可以练习 ，OK，so now let's start from the first group，OK， 第一组的那个档案有上来吗？第一组的档案有上来吗？好，你们有15分钟。
15分钟，
对。
为什么你们都那么多啊？为什么？
等一下，你们有那个吗？有简报吗？
有的。
那你把它弄上去。
我没有抄。
So starting from next week, please, each group, please send your slides to TA before the class, okay? So that we can save some time. Well, it's on me because I forgot to say this before, so it's okay. So 15 minutes for you. There's a clock here. And after this, please. 我有说这个我结束之后要写那个就是书面对不对？好像有哈。书面吗 Is there a paper after this? I forgot.
书面是指说把所有的报告都就是讲到那些全部都变成一个整页内容吗？
应该是。Okay, so after the presentation, each group will submit one paper within 10 days by the end of next Friday. Okay, next Friday. And normally the paper is 2 to 3 pages, not including reference. Okay. 可以吗？可以吗？ So next time, please use USB. That it will be faster. So we will spend next 2 or 3 weeks to talk about China's views and Taiwan's views. So there are a lot of readings there. Maybe you don't have time to read them all, but you should read the papers I put on the syllabus, okay, those items. So some of the items you can find on Trunk class, but some of them just Google it, okay? Yeah. So let me give you some tips here. So if you want to present something or you want to brought up some documents or slides, you can turn it into a short URL, 就是短网址 so that you can avoid to log in. Okay, I'm not blaming you, but okay. So 就是如果你要就是 present 什么的话，你可以把东西转成 PDF， 然后用短网址。OK， 那是最好的方式。短网址就是你把它弄在你的一个，比如说你可以用 Dropbox 啊，或者是那个有很多啦，就是很多那种云端的硬碟，或者是用 Google 也可以。好，然后你把它转成短网址，用那个网址把它弄成短网址，然后你就可以直接输入那个短网址就可以了。OK， 就是你就可以省去那个登录的麻烦。OK。它在转圈圈。Can you just start because we don't have time? But yeah. And next time, maybe it's easier to bring a USB, okay? A more traditional way is better. Yeah. Okay, just start.
We are just a group. Our topic of report is 2758. United Nations General Assembly Resolution. We don't have. So, what is 2758 resolution? We need to know what is it content have 3 key points. The first key point is
relation of the lawful rights of the People's Republic of China is central both for the protection of the Charter of the United Nations and for the cause that the United Nations must serve under the Charter. The second point is recognizing that the representativity of the government of the People's Republic of China are the only lawful representativity of China to the United Nations, and People's Republic of China is one of 5 permanent members of the Security Council. The third point is decide to return all these rights to the People's Republic of China and to expose forward the representativity of Chiang Kai-shek from United Nations.
Now we are going to talk about the past history of Resolution 2758. This resolution, adopted on October 25, 1971, marked a significant turning point in international relations, particularly in relation to the status of the People's Republic of China and Taiwan. The UN's composition at its inception reflected the geopolitical landscape of the time, with only a handful of nations representing the vast majority of the world's population. One such member was the Republic of China, which held a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. Fast forward to the mid-20th century, and the political landscape has undergone seismic shifts. The Chinese Civil War has culminated in the victory of communist forces under Mao Zedong, leading to the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949. Meanwhile, the Republic of China retreated to the island of Taiwan, continuing to assert its legitimacy as the rightful government of all China. For over 2 decades, this dual representation of China within the United Nations posed a dilemma for the international community. It wasn't until 1971 that this issue came to a head. With the Cold War in full swing and with the PRC gaining recognition from all increasing number of countries, the UN General Assembly convened to address the question of representation. Resolution 2758 was a culmination of the deliberation. It resolved to recognize the People's Republic of China as the only legitimate representative of China to the United Nations, and expel the representatives of Republic of China. This decision had far-reaching consequences, fundamentally altering the geopolitical dynamics of East Asia and reshaping the global balance of power.
So for now, currently to the U.S., they may argue that since San Francisco Peace Treaty didn't provide clear determination of Taiwan's sovereignty, Taiwan's status remains unresolved. U.S. acknowledged that one China policy, but they didn't accept. As for China's stance, they might utilize UN Resolution 2758 to bolster their position, asserting that both mainland China and Taiwan are part of one country and linking to the one China policy. They view the resolution as international recognition of mainland China's legitimate representation, thereby using it to constrain Taiwan's international space. For now, the impact of UN Resolution 2758 on Taiwan still lingers, but its influence has weakened. Despite losing the seat at the UN, Taiwan's government and civil society are actively engaging in various international participation and cooperation. In summary, while UN Resolution 2758 has had some impact on Taiwan, its role and status in international affairs continue to evolve and improve. Taiwan is actively seeking international recognition and participation to secure the legitimate position and development needs on the world stage.
Now is conclusion and what we can do in the future. The United States nation is an important arena for international political tug of war, and China has long taken advantage of its participation in the United Nations and its function international organization to provide political contribution and resources to infiltrate to and by of key decision makers in United Nations system. The outbreak of COVID-19 has made the international community aware of China's barbarism and irrationality. And China's series of outlandish performances have made the West realize that China's long-standing concern in promoting the civilizations of international organizations is not only to block Taiwan's international participations, but more importantly, to get a dominant position in the United Nations. At a time when China's aggressive ambitions are getting more and more arrogant, the United Nations should not be used as a tool for China to expand its influence, and it should be not continue to tolerate China's abuse of UN Resolution 275A to isolate Taiwan from the international community. In response, members of the United States Congress have introduced a cross-party proposal to retire that UN Resolution 275A recognize the People's Republic of China as the sole legitimate representative of China to the United Nations, and that it does not involve Taiwan and its people. UN Resolution 275 had already decided that Taiwan is part of the People's Republic of China and that Taiwan is not eligible to apply for membership in the United Nations. This is all the one-sided and irrational claim made by China, and it has not gained the general support of the member states, including the United States. As this international community speaks out more and more on behalf of Taiwan, we must take advantage of this rare opportunity to demonstrate Taiwan resilience, highlight the fact that Taiwan and the United Nations need each other, and make the international community realize that Taiwan's continued execution from the United Nations and the functional international organizations within its system is not only used for the people of Taiwan, but also used for United Nations and all of humankind. We must demonstrate Taiwan's willingness and ability to participate in the United Nations system and become a proven partner. In the future, we must focus on areas in which Taiwan has an advantage, such as public health, environmental protection, and invest more resources in environmental and cooperative progress, so as to actively contribute to the international community and interact and cooperate with other countries in order to promote global peace, economic prosperity, and the realization of the goal sustainable development proposed by the United Nations. This is the end for our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you.没关系，不用管。感谢那个感谢第一组哦，那个当第一组总是需要一些那个勇气的，虽然他们是抽签的哦。So the UN General Assembly resolution, maybe we can pronounce as 2758. This is because it's easier. 2758 resolution. Two things. Well. So two things. One, CCP is China. Two, expel Chiang Kai-shek's representative. Two, okay. So CCP replaced Chiang Kai-shek's representative to the membership and also the seats in the permanent Security Council. 就是两件事情啊，一，中华人民共和国代表中国取代蒋介石的政权；第二，驱逐蒋介石的政权，就这样。Okay, two things. So note that it's very interesting that in the resolution there's no Taiwan at all. No, not a word mentioning Taiwan. It's all about representativeness of China. Okay, who represents China? It is PRC, not Chiang Kai-shek. Not even ROC. Okay, it's Chiang Kai-shek's representative, not ROC. Okay, in the wording. Its wording is very important. Okay, there's a long fight on the wording. Okay, before the resolution. So we mentioned that there is a diplomatic fighting between these two sides after 1950s. There are two Chinas. I mean, after 1950s, the mainland China represented by PRC and also ROC represented by Taiwan's Chiang Kai-shek regime. They are fighting to the recognition of China. And we also mentioned that because Chiang Kai-shek is very stubborn, so that he are not willing to accept the two China's resolution. So we just lost everything. I mean, he cannot accept that there's one China represented by PRC, then we are another China in Taiwan in the UN. He did not accept that. Or you can imagine another universe that we, ROC, still in the United Nations, under the name of ROC, is another China. I mean, that resolution is called Two Chinas. 就是两个中国的议案，蒋介石始终不接受。但是如果你们可以想想看，如果我们当时他真的接受了，我们现在还在里面，就是联合国，然后就是我们就是 ROC， 然后还在里面，会是什么样的光景？非常有趣的光景。Okay. Right now, the first group, please add something more to your paper. So right now, China, I mean PRC, is using this resolution to claim Taiwan is part of China, which is not true because there's no Taiwan in the resolution. 就是现在中国在不断的用2758号决议，然后跟大家讲说台湾是中国的一部分，然后跟大家讲说联合国已经做出了决议，但是这就不是事实嘛，对不对 ？But you can see that, for example, in this year, our former diplomatic ally Nauru, when they switch to PRC, they claim, according to UN Resolution 2758, that Taiwan is part of China. So we should pay attention to this because it's part of the law warfare. 就是中国现在在用这个到处讲说2758号决议说台湾是中国的一部分，但是这就不是事实。Therefore, the U.S. now trying to fight back. The U.S. Congress passed a resolution calling to deny China's misuse of UN Resolution 2758. 就是美国的国会甚至有通过一个决议案，说我们要谴责中国随便误用、滥用了2758号决议，因为2758号决议根本就没有关台湾啊，你不能用那个来宣称你拥有台湾的主权。 但是中国现在是不断的用去讲这件事情，所以这个要请第一组加到你们后来那个报告里面。OK，the current impact. Okay, so right now China is using this resolution to claim their sovereignty on Taiwan, which is not true. So this is why the U.S. want to fight back, especially from the State Department and also from the Congress. Okay. The next question, maybe we will discuss in the next 2 weeks, is if we want to go back to rejoin or to join the United Nations, what's the difference of rejoin and join? Under what name should we use? Are we going to use the name ROC or Taiwan? That is another important question for us, because it's totally different in terms of international law. Okay, totally different. If we want to join, if we want to rejoin, we are under the name of Republic of China. If we want to join, then we are going to use the name Taiwan. What's the difference? So there's in the year 2007, we used Taiwan to deliver an application to join UN under the name of Taiwan in the Chen Shui-bian administration. You know that according to some experts, that activity is called our Declaration of Independence. OK， 就是在国际法上面，我们用台湾的名义要加入联合国这件事情，可以被视为是我们的独立宣言。以国际法角度来说 ，because if we want to use Taiwan to join UN, that means we, Taiwan, see ourselves as a country that is different from the former China, ROC. Okay, complicated. Let's talk in 2 weeks. Okay, next 2 weeks. Okay, next week we are going to talk about China, and then there's a spring break, and there are a lot of readings about Taiwan independence and the status quo, right? So you can use the spring break to read them, and we will talk about Taiwan maybe in the first week of April. Any questions? OK， 那请各组赶快联络一下。然后呢，这个下一次之前，就是在上课前，请用 PDF，PDF 应该是比较容易的哈，就是先寄给助教这样子。OK， we'll see you next week. OK。你说。
昨天有收到一个新的组的课程，微来联络我们。
哦，对啊。
说他被分到我们这组，请问是什么样的情况？
就是因为他一开始消失，所以他没有赶上他们那一组，所以想说把它分到后面一点的组。你们是第几组啊？
我们是第4组。
哦，那就收容一下。
他今天会来，但他今天也没有来。
他今天没有来，那就随缘吧。
随缘。
你就尽量联络他，如果他没消失的话，再跟我说。
好，没问题。
对，我有点担心他的状况。
他好像他跟我说他春假之后才会来。
那是什么状况？为什么春假之后才来？
他说他家里有事，然后他昨天跟我说他今天会出去。
他学期初跟我请假的理由跟后来跟助教请假的理由都不一样，所以我有点担心他。
他家里有事。
但是没关系 ，anyway， 我相信他啦。那反正他如果不来就没办法，就反正你们就先随缘，你们就自己先准备，然后要讨论就拉他来讨论，然后就分配工作给他。啊，如果
状况还是
分配，对，那你们要自己有个 backup， 就是说，就是要有人 cover。
分配一些还好的工作。
对。但是反正之后都会有组别的那个就是 evaluation， 所以都不用担心。对，帮忙收容他一下，看一下他的状况这样子。
因为我还是不太清楚那个题目要怎么定。在这里。
就是那个他们前面的组别已经选好了嘛，所以你们就不要选到重复的就可以。你跟那个助教联络一下，跟助教联络一下，就是第2、第3组已经选了，对，然后所以跟他联络一下，就是你不要选到一样的，对，所以你们去找助教。对。
就是这个营队他会很需要英文能力。
他是全英文上课，对不对？你有修过统计吗？
我有。
修过到什么程度？到小学。我有点犹豫要不要推荐大家去参加，因为你会有高度的挫折，非常高度。像我那时候是研究所的时候去参加，但是大概只有前大概半天听的，就是跟得上，到后面一整个礼拜都跟不上。但是我又会觉得它是一个很值得你去的，认识那些老师， 跟认识同学，因为那些同学未来都可能要出国，然后那些老师就是会帮助你出国的人。
哦，
所以那个东西，我觉得你可以，不要把它当成一个要学到什么东西，你学不到，因为你跟不上啦，跟不上，你跟不上。我那时候都跟不上了。
是全英文。
好像是全英文，然后但是你可以去，你如果跟不上，你可以去写信去问可不可以旁听。那个主办的那个吴文清老师人很好，你可以去问他，他会有一些 open 的那种就是 speech， 像我去年跑去听黄记的，就是那种就是那种大师，就是那些都是领域的大师，那我觉得很值得去听，即使你听不懂，你就去看，然后去看那个学术的状况是怎么样，然后想办法去认识人，跟人家聊天。然后这都很好，对，但是以课程本身来说，我觉得我们跟不上。以我们系给大家的这个训练，我觉得跟不上。对啊，就是这不是我们系的问题啊，是因为那些东西就是很 advanced，就是很，我觉得那个可能比较适合博班1年级之类的。对啊，但是它就是要帮助我们国内的研究生建立一些跟国外的 connection， 所以还是很值得参加。但是你要有心理准备，就它很难，你会跟不上。OK， 我当年就是大概跟得上前半天哦，它有2个礼拜，就是我只跟得上半天，超级挫折。
了解。
就是我们书面的呈现方式，就是把我们经验。
书面的话就是要比较正式一点，就是要稍微多讲。
比如说就是要有，就像写一篇小小的。